All right, welcome to episode 73 of Farm to Markets. Little different format today is where this time we have 5 questions and everybody gets 5 minutes to talk, so that we're not running over on time, which we have pretty much in the last 72 episodes. So this is an attempt to just keep it a little bit more brief. And so we're going to talk about 5 topics today. No lightning round. The whole thing is essentially a lightning round. And so we'll get going with the first topic.
Well, it's also to pay homage to chess as well. Isn't this where the idea we
Yeah,
came up with? Is in chess you get a timer, and you only
right,
have so much time to move your pieces. And if you run out of time, you essentially lose.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
30
exactly.
seconds of Drew's time, right?
Yeah, so the person with the yeah, so if you run out of time, you've lost. Okay, you're done talking. You don't get to talk about any of the topics anymore. And the person with the most time, we are going to award a winner. So this is a scored competition. So if you have the most time, you win the episode. And as I said at the beginning, there are no prizes. Um, so yeah, so you don't get anything, but you just get the satisfaction knowing that you won Farm to Markets that week. We're in the midst of another debt ceiling battle, and which we've been in before. And the thing that's different about this time is that Treasury bills are paying about 5%, and savers have been buying these 1 year Treasury bills that are paying 5%, like hotcakes, because bank accounts and even high yield savings accounts haven't gotten to the point where 1 year Treasuries have. So there's a lot of people with holding 1 year Treasury bonds or T bills paying 5% because of the possibility that we may not get an agreement by June or August on the debt ceiling. Do you think T bills are still a safe investment? Hang
Um, I think so. I don't think that there's much chance that the U.S. will actually default on its debt. Um, Technically speaking, like you mentioned, the Treasury has a plan in place currently that gets them through the period of the debt ceiling limit, like time limit, to continue servicing the debt. After that, assuming they don't actually raise the debt ceiling, if they're not going to do the gimmicky things like, $1 trillion coin or whatever, then you might run into some problems. But if the US were to actually default on treasuries, borrowing costs would only get worse. So I think both political parties know this. I don't think there's any real chance that they're not going to raise the debt ceiling. Republicans and Democrats may try and haggle over this, and they certainly will. And who gets what concession, we'll see. But I don't think the debt ceiling is going to go unraised, and I don't think we're going to default on treasuries. The consequences would be too bad for either party to let that happen.
oh, just automatically. Okay, so my time. So yeah, I agree with Alex. It, this would be the most epic case of cutting off your nose, in spite of one's face, if you defaulted on your government debt just to make a point and not to raise the debt ceiling. Why would you do that? Why would you jeopardize the full faith and credit of the United States and send the globe in a tailspin, just to not raise the debt ceiling? I think it's a bit of a false dilemma. Like Alex said, we're gonna raise the debt ceiling. It's just, are we gonna have to make some concessions to get there? Probably. This is only a problem when you have divided government. Same thing happened in 2021. We raised the ceiling enough for us to make it through till now. And now we have Republicans took over the House. We still have a Democratic Senate and obviously a Democrat in the White House. So there's a battle again to see how we're going to raise this debt ceiling. It happened in 2011, 2012, and 2013 too. And we've never not raised the debt ceiling. We've done it every single time. And I don't see us going into default and not honoring the commitments on treasuries and government securities to not do that. Now, for the sake of the question, if we did default on that, it would be awful. It would, you wouldn't get paid back. It would basically destroy our credit ratings in the world. It would jeopardize all, financial models, because basically treasuries are the risk-free rate. If you default on that, it's no longer risk-free. It's risky. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, we'll raise the debt ceiling for sure.
When we when we talk about defaulting on Treasury payments, the question is that which of your borrowers do you want to tick off? In our divided government, it's tend to be class warfare quite a bit. And we could always say, well, we'll just default on people who buy Treasury bills, which tend to be wealthy people. Well, sometimes those wealthy people are sovereign nations. So they're African nations, they're European nations, or South American nations who are actually who are actually lending us money. And if you default on those borrowers, what are the odds of them going to you instead of maybe China in the future to lend money if they've got excess cash to put on the sidelines? It'll be interesting to be, how this plays out. I don't think we're going to default. I think they will raise the debt ceiling because it seems to be the path of least resistance. Fact of the matter is, we just can't continue to do this forever. The question is, at what point do we stop giving retirement benefits to the military, or do we stop paying pensions for federal workers, or even worse, when do we stop giving Social Security checks to the people who their entire lives trusted the government to take care of their retirement? Because something's got to give. We can't continue to raise the debt ceiling every time we get to this point.
You want to click your
Oh,
all right. So I do, yeah. So I don't think there's any danger of Treasury bill or of us defaulting on the debt. I don't think there's any danger to Treasury bills. A couple reasons. Number one is that the Treasury bills that mature between June and August, we've not seen any spike in their yields, which means investors aren't demanding any more yield for taking risk. And then when some people brought up that credit default swaps that on Treasury bills that come up that come due between June and August have gone up a little bit, but again, they've only gone up like 20 basis points. And when you look at that compared to when when Greece was going to default on their debt back in 2015, they were up 1,000 basis points. So I think if there was a real risk, we'd see a higher spike in Treasury bills that are coming due this summer, and then also on the credit default swap. So I don't think that's going to happen. Number two, it wouldn't be the first time. We had that. It wasn't the debt battle, but it was the budget reconciliation. I think in 2018, and then I think there was like another one in 2013 or something like that, where the government actually shut down. And I feel like if they couldn't reach agreement, the government couldn't pay its bills, you'd probably enter like a period of government shutdown, and I think they'd still be paying interest. But at some point, politicians would be like, okay, we relent, and then raise the debt ceiling so that we don't have a bunch of like furloughed government workers again. But I don't think that they're going to forego paying interest on their bonds. Okay, all right. I guess I should ask, does anybody else have anything to add to this if you want to use your rest of your time on this question?
not using my time.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Just use 2 seconds.
All right. So we'll go to the next one here. So electricians, the essential worker in the transition to renewable energy, are increasingly in short supply. They are needed to install electric car chargers, heat pumps, and other gear deemed essential to address climate change. Electricians say they are booked several months out and are struggling to find enough workers to keep up with demand. Many are raising wages and prices and worried that they won't be able to keep up with the government climate incentive when the government climate incentives kick in. The scarcity is part of a nationwide labor shortage and most acute in the Northeast and California, where demand for green energy projects is highest. In part due to the state incentives. Some economists expect the pinch to spread across the country as incentives for new federal laws known as the Inflation Reduction Act kick in. Do you think the rest of the nation will experience the same electrician shortage that California and the Northeast are experiencing due to the green energy products and the Inflation Reduction Act? Okay.
Yeah, I do think it will spread. I think it's already spreading. My wife is a real estate lender, and one of the things they run into routinely when they're doing construction loans is how hard it is to find contractors like electricians who are less than a few months out. The shortage is real, and like here and everywhere else, it's combination of two factors. One, you have baby boomers retiring in large numbers, and second, there are just not enough millennials in those lines of business replacing them. That's in part due because millennials were told to go to college and not to go into the trades in the 2000s and in the 1990s. So you have a huge generation of college educated people, but not very many tradesmen in our generation. And if you want to solve the problem, well, you have to first ask yourself, how long does it take to get a master electrician? Well, it's just to get licensed. It depends on the state, but it's like 4,000 to 8,000 hours of on the job and training experience. That's not and if you do the math, people work full-time jobs, 2,080 hours a year. That's minimum 4 years, probably longer. So we'll probably be dealing with this through the end of the decade, possibly longer. I guess we'll find out, but I think it's here to stay and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's definitely going to be a shortage of electricians. There has been for a while. There's pretty much a shortage of everything right now. And like Alex alluded to, there's kind of a triple whammy going on. Baby boomers are retiring from the trades faster than millennials are replacing them. And millennials are going into tech. That's what they want to do. They don't want to go to the trades. And you have this Inflation Reduction Act that's requiring more workers. So something's got to give. Obviously, baby boomers aren't going to come out of retirement and do the jobs. And the Inflation Reduction Act is here in place. That's already underway. That's probably going to happen. So the obvious choice is to just incentivize younger people to go into the trades. Now, either do that through charging more money. Maybe the market will increase the salaries of these workers, or the demand will increase the salaries of these workers. Or you have to stop incentivizing kids to go to college by reducing or cutting their student loans. Maybe you give some reduction in loans to people that go into the trade to pay for their truck or their tools, or you shift the incentives from going to college to go to the trades. That's the only way we're going to alleviate this pinch.
And once again, is that politicians historically have been really, really inept at playing more than one chess move ahead. So they get into a room and they say, what we really ought to do? We ought to come up with legislation which demands that we hit these green energy goals by such and such a date, but they don't think into the future how this is going to have repercussions on the rest of the economy. So yes, absolutely, there's going to be a shortage. So the question is that which of the individual states are going to pay electricians more? And what you'll see is a large migration of people going to where the money is. Similar in our backyard over in the Williston Basin, over in North Dakota and on the east side of Montana, when oil prices were at $105 a barrel, you just saw tons and tons of our neighbors going over and working 2 days a week over in the oil fields and then flying back here for 2 weeks back here. If there's an electrician shortage in California and New York and they're willing to pay top dollar, then we're going to see our Montana electricians flock to those places. And they'll do exactly the same thing. They'll go there, they'll work a couple of weeks, they'll come home. They'll work a couple of weeks and they'll come home, because that's what ambitious people do. They go to where the money is and they make as much of it as they can for the time that's available.
Okay. What these? Okay. Yeah. I can't get anybody to come fix my refrigerator, like my water softener. Like a lot of people are 6 months out. It's impossible to get somebody. And I think Alex is absolutely right. Is that, like 10 years ago, there was a big push. It's like, oh, you don't want to be in the trades. You want to go to college. And I feel like a lot of people did that. They got their tech degrees. They did all right. Now they have some money to spend, but now there's nobody to come fix their refrigerator. So, and then you want to add something like the Inflation Reduction Act on top of this. It just exacerbates the problem. And now you got to figure out. I mean, if obviously as demand piles up, these workers are going to charge more because there's going to be more people after them, and they're going to start doing well. So hopefully it'll just create its own demand. If I can look at an electrician and see that I don't have to pay for college, I can instead do an apprenticeship, which is a lot cheaper than college, and I can still make $80,000 to $120,000 a year doing this kind of stuff. You'll probably see more people head into the trades in the first place, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, until the supply catches up with demand, I mean, you're just going to have these shortages, and it's just going to continue to get worse.
I want to spend some of my time on this one. Is that once again, I hope the message is clear here that whenever the government starts using incentives for people to do things without thinking these things through, you have situations where we tell our kids to go to college. We'll use government-backed student loans for you to go to school to get degrees that the economy doesn't need. And then we suffer through situations like we're experiencing right now. The moral of the story is get the government out of our economy and let the free market determine how many electricians we need and how many college graduates that we need.
Okay. All right, so move on to the next one here. So after years of declining soup sales, Campbell's redesigned its iconic soup can for the first time. First time in 50 years. So the company's strategy is to revitalize its namesake product. So I guess, and I don't know, I'll throw a picture up on the screen here what it looks like. But what do you think of Campbell's new logo? And does this incentivize you to want to buy Campbell's soup?
The new logo looks very similar to the old, as the image you're going to show will display. I think what's interesting is in watching the video and reading a little bit about it, it was actually COVID and everybody having to stay home that started revitalizing their sales. People were buying condensed soups and using them to make, at-home meals that would replicate in some way what they could get at a restaurant that they couldn't get because everything was closed. But in general, I think like graphic design like this is kind of interesting because little changes like changing the font or changing the drop shadow under the letters dramatically can make changes to how people purchase or, make purchasing decisions. I think it's interesting. I thought the probably more interesting, though, was that they put like pictures of the ingredients, like a whole tomato or a chicken, like a roast chicken, rather than like pictures of the soup, to emphasize that they're using like full whole ingredients and not just weird stuff. So I guess I think it's interesting. It looks like it's working for them so far.
This is interesting. I don't think it makes me want to go out and buy Campbell's soup necessarily, but it makes me look at Campbell's soup slightly differently. I think that every generation has this innate fear of becoming their parents. And I don't know if that's a natural thing or if that's just brilliant marketers manipulating the consumers. But I think what they're trying to do is untether themselves from the idea of this soup is what grandma and grandpa ate. It might not be very healthy. They don't use organic materials. It harbors all those old ideas that the new generation doesn't agree with. And they're doing it in a subtle way, just subtle enough to make it cool to the new generation. And we can be different and we can still enjoy this great product. Marketers, they do their research. They do their research. These big companies, they know what they're doing. Ton of money goes into what the consumer wants, what drives consumer behavior, almost to the point where I feel a bit violated when I go buy anything. I do like the look of the new Campbell's logo. A lot of companies have been successful in subtly changing their brands. So I think they know what they're doing. I think it's going to drive up sales.
I think Drew's onto something when he's talking about how the Campbell's marketing department is trying to capture a new market, which is the younger folks. But I'm part of the older folks, and I don't think we have one can of any Campbell's soup in our pantry, even though we are stocked full of soup. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're paying for the brand with Campbell's, and other soups of similar quality are a lot less expensive. So maybe these label changes will help capture that younger market. But unless they can compete with all these other soup manufacturers that we're certainly doing business with, I think it might be a lost cause.
Oh man. Why is this happening? Hang on. Technical issues.
Whoa.
There we go. Okay.
You just took away 7 of my seconds.
Yeah.
I'll give him.
You said there was no cheating before we started this thing, and there you are.
Well, if you say right, the clock just ran down like 5 seconds of mine. So, but no, it's shocking how much psychology goes into the labels and packaging of products. and especially in the grocery store, there's a couple Planet Money podcasts that like do a deeper dive into how they arrange all this stuff. And there is a lots and lots of thought that is put into where everything goes in the supermarket, and then especially with the logos and the look of these cans and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into it. But to Drew's point is that I don't do like I didn't notice, probably wouldn't notice because I don't do a lot of grocery shopping, but my wife does, and I think she's definitely looking at the price per ounce or whatever. So we have soup in the house, but it's not Campbell's. But I think it looks good, but I wouldn't have noticed. But I'm sure they absolutely know what they're doing. Okay, let's see here. So on Monday evening, passengers on flight U21806 coming from Iceland to Manchester were able to take pictures of basically the aurora borealis as they're on this flight. So the pilot, apparently inspired by how beautiful the scene was, decided to take what they called a controlled detour to basically circle around to let the passengers on the plane take pictures of the aurora borealis. The whole detour took 10 minutes, and he performed the 360-degree turn at 37,000 feet, going about 500 miles per hour. So all in all, it added about 10 minutes to flight time. Passengers got to take pictures of whatever was going on outside the aircraft. If you were on the flight, do you think this is a good idea, or would you prefer the pilot just stick to the flight plan?
I think it's actually, let me start my timer here.
There you go.
Here we go. I think it's pretty cool. If I was on the flight, I generally wouldn't have an issue with it unless there were some stipulations. If they cleared it with the tower, it didn't endanger any other aircraft, then so what? Otherwise, if I'm not going to miss a tight connecting flight because of it, I have no real problem. If I'm going to miss a connection, though, just look up the photos online.
Yeah, as long as the FAA allows it, they're not breaking any rules. I think if this was a flight in Pleasantville, I would have no problem with it. I think it's kind of cool that the pilot did this. But then you run the risk of, well, what if a bird went into the engine and the plane crashed, or they ran into some turbulence on this uncharted route? Then you're open to lawsuits, and before you know it, the whole airline company is in jeopardy. In Pleasantville, I think it's great. I would have no problem if I was on that plane, but you got to be careful these days.
I have no problem with a pilot doing this. Is that we pay him to be the captain of his ship. We pay him to make good decisions for the good of the entire crew and passengers. If it was safe and it seemed like there was a majority of folks who thought this was a good idea, then I would support it.
Yeah, I noticed you're talking on my time there.
No, I wasn't.
Were. Yeah.
So you're touching
I'll
my
show you the
time
video
now.
playback here that what's going on. But no, it's fine. I'll just put my clock down.
Yeah.
It's fine he did that. It sounds like he knew absolutely what he's doing. I'm sure he was a skilled, or they were. I'm sure they were a skilled pilot, knew exactly what they were doing. However, there was that I think it was the Italian cruise ship where the guy decided to swing the boat real close to the shore and like honk the horn or whatever, and he ended up hitting a underwater rock, slicing a hole in the bottom. The ship floods, tips over, and now you have a whole bunch of problems. So if I'm the pilot of this aircraft, I would say just stick to the flight plan. Let's not do anything cute, because you're right. If you hit a bird or if something happens that wouldn't have happened if you just kept going, now you got a whole bunch of problems on your hands. So it's great that there's something going on, but I think if you're the pilot, I think the better decision would have been just do exactly what you said you were going to do. Let's not do anything. Let's not do anything cute. I think I ran out of time.
Tom,
Yeah, are we not,
Tom wears
not
oven
going-
mitts when he drinks hot chocolate.
Yeah, maybe. Did I run out of time? Did I seriously use
You
all
did.
the Shoot. All right, I guess I got to stop talking. But dang it, I want to talk about Cocaine Bear, which is the next topic. So there's a movie coming out titled Cocaine Bear, and the entire movie is about a bear that is on cocaine, and which sounds ridiculous in the first place, but is actually based on a true story. When in 1985, cocaine was actually dropped out of an airplane by mistake, and then a bear found it in the woods and actually ate it. So I didn't actually see, I doubt it was as entertaining as the movie was, but I guess whoever, so somebody was scrolling through this, found the movie Cocaine Bear, and decided to make it. Was like, this is gonna be a great movie. We're making it, and then they did. So I guess my two questions are: one, are you gonna watch Cocaine Bear, and then two, who do you think this movie's aimed at? And let me adjust the clock here.
Yeah, I will probably see it. I'll probably have to wait for it to be on streaming. It looks fun. It looks entertaining. It looks ridiculous. So why not? Who's it aimed at? Well, apparently me, because I'm going to watch it. So there you go.
I think I lost some brain cells watching that ad on YouTube. That movie looks so ridiculous. I know some people will like it, such as Alex, but I don't think I'll get any enjoyment from it. I don't think I'm going to watch it. It's kind of like the Sharknado series. Some people
ran out of time.
I'd have to say that I agree with Alex. I think this movie was targeted for Alex. I probably won't be seeing it.
Okay. All right, and I'm out of time, so I can't say anything either. So, all right.
I think so. You could donate some time to Tom if you want.
Yeah, I'll take a couple seconds. Yeah. No, I'm probably not going to see it.
Take my
I'll watch the trailer, but no.
Yeah, take them.
Take a few minutes of Joe's time here, but all right. So that's the end. So that's the end of the first. Yay! All right, we're done. And Joe is the winner for today. So congratulations, you get nothing. I could say you go get yourself a cup of coffee, but you don't drink it. So, all right. So
I couldn't afford the oven mitts.
What's that?
I couldn't afford the oven mitts.
You could, yeah. You got to be careful. That thing could get hot. So, all right. So that's it for episode 73 of Farm to Markets. We'll see you next time.